Hello everyone. Today I will be talking about organized crime and its role in law and ethics. To start off, I'll be talking about a couple of parts of organized crime, its definition, characteristics, law, and its effect on ethics. And also I'll finish off with a small conclusion of everything I talked about. I think organized crime can be defined a couple of ways. But I think the biggest overarching top or definition of it is it's organized crime happens worldwide, transnational, national, or it can be very local in your community. It is almost always deemed with criminal and malicious intent. It is really illegal activities that are used in order to make money or a profit, or also create power for the group that is taking part in the organized crime. There's never really a positive effect on the surrounding community that the organized crime is taking part in. There are many names for organized crime. Oftentimes it runs through a family, or people can join a business through it. They can run a business through it. But you could call it a mob, a mafia, a cartel, triad, or a crime syndicate. Oftentimes run through crime families. An example of that is an African country that engages in drug trafficking or financial scams. And almost always it uses violence and bribery to maintain its operations that it has going. And there are two types of crime markets. One that is filled with forbidden goods and services, and the other is permitted goods that are deemed legal, which are handled and used by lawbreakers. So a mob or a mafia using guns to take part in malicious actions or activities that in no way benefit the society. And there is the upper world and underworld. The upper world is where the activities are approved and legal and they're used to make money. And then there's the underworld, which is really the wrong side of the law. It's where you'll take part in illegal activities in order to make money. And the reason it is still existing is because it thrives because of the public demands. Now, if you're going to get a cheap watch from someone for $50, say it's like a Rolex, and normally they're much more expensive than that, you're not going to question how they got that. You're just going to be like, okay, wow, this is a really good deal. Like I'm going to take this. And it's an illegal action to do that. It's to sell something that maybe they stole it. Maybe they didn't get it through just a regular purchase. The reason organized crime exists is exactly for that reason, because they're able to get stuff for cheaper than it normally is. And some of the characteristics of organized crime is the goal is to manipulate and monopolize financial markets. And what that means is instead of having competition between businesses or between families or different groups like mafias, instead of them competing for business and trying to make money and fight for customers, they eliminate that aspect of business, which is oftentimes the biggest part of business, is the competition. What this does, it eliminates the competition side of it, and they work together. They can regulate everything that goes on. So there's no more competition, and they can just focus on strictly making money, and they can rule that market. They don't need to worry about people stealing their business or worry about their customers coming back, because they know their customers are going to come back because they have no other options. They provide the public with goods and services such as gambling, bets, narcotics, sex, and unregulated loans, which are almost always illegal. But the public likes that. They like that they can get these things without much trouble. And it can oftentimes contain stock fraud, financial scams, drug trafficking, and also prostitution. And oftentimes these activities happen at the expense of the community that they're in. So they're not really benefiting from everything that's going on. It's just the main goal of these mafias and mobs and cartels is to generate money for themselves. And some of these activities like the stock fraud which is falsified profits of companies in order to make more money, so people invest and they just take the money, which is again illegal. And the main goal is to generate money through all these illegal activities. There's not really any other reason for them to do it. They thrive on fear and corruption. So when you hear about the Russian and Italian mafias, you think about, oh well, back then they were really scared of what was going on, and they were, and that's why people couldn't stop them. You didn't stop them. Even the police departments of them didn't stop them because they were scared, and there were so many people involved in this. That is the main reason they were so successful. And they used threats. Say again, we'll use another mafia for an example. They would threat the candidate that's running for mayor or governor or something like that, and they say, you're not gonna stop us. You're just gonna let us continue what we're doing, or we're gonna do this and this to you. And that is, it's a big deal, like, for them to have control not only within their own business, but for them to make sure they're not going to get caught for what they're doing. So they have an effect on the internal government of what's going on. And they're part of the underworld operations where all the activities are on the wrong side of the law. They'll steal, they'll murder, they'll rob people, they'll tell them, oh, we'll get you a return on this money. It's all illegal. It doesn't benefit the society in any way. And then there's the overarching 6 characteristics of organized crime. There's planned criminal behavior, and planned criminal behavior is when it doesn't just happen spontaneously. So if you're to kill someone as defense or just shoot someone on the street, that's something that happens spontaneously. It's non-random. It's not planned at all. So that is the opposite of organized crime, is where everything's planned out ahead of time, making sure that nothing's messed up. It includes, like I said earlier, it includes a large number of people, hundreds of thousands. You may think that, oh, we'll talk to this guy, he's a good guy. He could be part of the mafia or the mob. That's just how it goes. Like, you want to be protected, and the mafia may be, all right, if you don't tell on us, we'll protect you and your family, and there's no way you can get hurt because we have hundreds of thousands of people in it. And there's a diverse type of activity. There's supply, production, retail. They may work in a warehouse. They may work in the creation of drugs. There's maybe stuff like that. And then, again, they're on a regional, national, or transnational scale. It could be just your local community. It could be the whole city. It could be the whole country. It could even be across borders. That's the big thing about organized crime. It's very hard to detect. It's very hard to tell when something is going wrong and how large scale it really is. There's large amounts of turnover, millions and billions of dollars. There's massive amounts of, say, drugs or weapons being transported from mafia to mafia or from country to country, and that is all organized crime. And their main goal, the main reason for any organized crime, is having the goal of power and profit. They're looking to make money through these legal activities that's going on. That's their main goal. And again, the government's not just standing there not doing anything. They're doing their best to slow down the organized crime that is going on. And the biggest law is RICO, is the Racketeer Influencing Corrupt Organizations Act of 1970. It was initially made to stop mafia groups, but now it is expanded into much broader scope of illegal activities, I would say. And racketeering is any criminal activity to benefit an organization. So very similar, just anytime an organized crime is taking part in illegal activity like counterfeiting, fraud, robbery, murder, crime like that, that is all falls under the category of racketeering. And one of the quotes from my sources, it says, the law establishes severe consequences for those who engage in a pattern of wrongdoing as a member of a criminal enterprise. So really, an organized crime, family, mafia, that's what you deem a criminal enterprise. So anytime someone takes part in that, any action they make in that family would fall under RICO. Racketeering can range from property crimes to financial crimes. Property crimes could be robbery, arson, murder, anything like that you could think of, just getting shot by someone in the mafia. The financial crimes are much more harder to detect. It's the money laundering, counterfeiting, also mail and wire fraud. And any participation in these crimes falls under the RICO Act and can be punishable with 20 years in prison. It can also have a fine of $250,000. Now that may seem like, oh, 20 years in prison, that's a pretty harsh punishment for something like this, where it could just be running drugs across a border, and you may just be a part of the mafia. And then I think the main reason that the government has made such a harsh punishment is that to deter people from continuing these types of actions. They want to discourage people from taking part in these illegal activities, even though oftentimes it's easy to get away with, but they want to make a harsh punishment so no one's getting away with it. A subpart of the RICO Act is the Organized Crime Control Act of 1970. The goal is to prevent a group of 5 or more people in a gambling organization from continuing business, and it really only applies when the business has existed for 30 or more days, or it makes more than $2,000 in a single day. And that is strictly through a gambling organization. Anytime it has existed that long or making that much money, it is shut down by the government. And now I'm going to touch on the ethical side of organized crime, and one of the parts that organized crime takes part in is the financial side, where they will say, if the fraud and the Ponzi schemes where someone come up to you, you know they're part of the mafia, you worry that if you decline their offer, then that could result in harm to your family or your friends. They say, give us a certain amount of money and you'll see so and so amount in return in a week or so, and you may give it to them, and then you won't see that. And that is one of I think the biggest parts of the financial side fraud of the mafia, is where they take your money and they say they're going to use it for this, but they don't. They're using that money for their own really malicious intent. They're just filled with greed. They're not looking out for anyone else. That's just not how they work. So that's why their financial crimes are so unethical, is they're taking your money and using it, and never using it for anything good. It's just strictly for their own desires. And then you have the drug cartel, which they'll move drugs in and out of the country, in and out of your city, and that's unethical because they're taking these illegal drugs and selling to other people. I mean, it'd be a different story if it's something that's benefiting the community, but there's no way that any type of drugs, it's just going to mess people up and mess with their families and drive them apart and cause people to steal for money when they can't afford the drugs that they want to buy. It's just going to wreak havoc. It's not going to provide any positives to the city, and that's why it's unethical. And then you have prostitution. You think about like a girl who's selling her body on the side of the street, or she's part of the mafia. She's doing that because she's insecure about herself, and maybe she just needs the extra money, but you're taking advantage of someone who is in need and giving them money for something that isn't a service that is deemed okay by society or by anyone around you. Like, it's just not okay to sell your body to other people. It's your personal space. Then you have the trafficking, which is moving people in and out of the city for work or stuff like that. And then again, you have the mafia, which is just trying to use all these illegal activities such as the financial fraud, Ponzi schemes, drug cartel, prostitution, trafficking, it could be robbery, murder, anything like that. All, again, illegal activities, part of the underworld side, the forbidden goods and services, all to generate money for themselves. I mean, I don't know if anyone could ever explain how financial fraud, drugs, prostitution, or trafficking is ethically okay, and how it brings any benefits to the community that you're in. And one of the main reasons that mafias are still there is the political corruption that we see. You may see in movies how the mafia is not getting in trouble, or the police department or government is overlooking it because there are people in the police department and the government who are corrupt. They know they've been threatened by the mafia saying, oh, you're not going to do this, you're not going to shut us down, or something like this is going to happen. It's the fear and power that they have that drives them and keeps them going. Because if they didn't have this power and no one feared them, they wouldn't be able to have success like this. So in conclusion, organized crime is the illegal activity of just a group to generate some sort of revenue for themselves, never benefiting the society. There's never any positives that come out of it. They thrive on fear and the power that they have generated from the activities that they're taking part in. And then what efforts are we making to stop it? We have the RICO Act of 1970 and the Controlled Organized Crime Act of 1970, both of which are attempting to scare people from taking part in organized crime with a very harsh punishment of their sentencing. And why is that ethically wrong? Because first of all, you're taking part in illegal activities. You're not using the money that you're getting for anything good. You're taking people's money, buying more drugs, continuing your business, when that's just not ethically right. It's not what's meant to be. You're supposed to put hard work in. Yeah, it's hard work to rob people and stuff like that, but you're supposed to be able to do it, and people are supposed to be okay with it. If people aren't okay with what you're doing to make money, chances are it's not ethically okay. So that is all I have. Here are my references. Thank you for your time.